I'm Laura and I love composting. I'm from Alaska and I know Paul and Sunshine from Alaska. And we run an organic garden up there, my husband and I, Denali Organic Growers. We provide food for 20 families weekly and 5 locally owned restaurants. And we have volunteers that come that we educate on the farm every summer, and they help us produce the crops. And really, we couldn't do it without them, so that's great. They learn it and hopefully take it home and spread the word about organics. Why it's good, what it does for us, what it does for the earth, everything. Everything's good about organics. Okay, so in these pots we have leftover kitchen scraps. And we're gonna take these kitchen scraps and a few other items and we're gonna turn it into beautiful soil for the garden. Because the whole process of organic gardening is that you're building soil. That's it. So instead of just using leaves or instead of just using any one of these items, you just wanna mix it up. You wanna get a little bit of everything. And the biggest thing I can convey is that it's not science. Well, of course it's science, but it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. And it's so easy, and it can be done in a small, tiny pile in your backyard, or it can be done in a big composter like this, or it can be done in rows, like as big as the parking lot, you know, just long rows. As long as everything can get air and water, like every other living thing needs, it's gonna compost.
Out of the kitchen, what can you put in and what can you not put in your kitchen scraps?
All right, good question. So you're just trying to keep your pile more appealing. So and it's bacteria that we don't want. So we don't want anything from an animal. We don't want dairy, we don't want meat, and we don't want oil. Some things that are really good that you might have a lot of are coffee grounds. Those are a very good one that are on top of that pile. And then a variety.
Can you overdo the coffee grounds since we use so much coffee here?
You know, it'd be a good experiment because I'm not sure, but it is high in nitrogen. As long as it's organic, I think you're fine.
And it looks like eggshells are fine.
Eggshells are great. Eggshells are high in nitrogen. The two things you're basically mixing to create compost is nitrogen and carbon. Nitrogen's moving. Nitrogen's what's doing your breaking down. Nitrogen is released in the process. It's coming out in the air, it's absorbing back into the earth. Everything needs nitrogen to grow. Carbon is more sedentary. This is carbon. Brown, dry, not much life left in it. So basically what you're thinking, to keep it real simple, is that you're gonna do a layer of high nitrogen, a layer of carbon, a layer of nitrogen, a layer of carbon. And as you go through that, you just sprinkle a little bit of water in to keep that process, because everything needs air, everything needs water. If it stinks, you have way too much nitrogen. You have too much gooey, probably food scraps is usually the most where people get too much nitrogen. So we don't want that. So if it gets stinky or it's too liquidy, cut out the water and add more carbon. The best sources probably for you guys right around here are gonna be the leaves. And I think you can try the newspaper. Would probably be good, shredding the newspaper, because that's a good carbon as well.
Now, I've also heard that manure can be a good thing for compost. And now, is that nitrogen? Or
manure is nitrogen, and manure is excellent, but it's going to do it without. And so if you don't have a good source, just leave it out, is what I think. This is the composter we're going to use. You can do composters in all different ways. This one rotates like this, so that we can spin the compost without having to do a lot of work with a pitchfork and turn it. Compost will do its thing. It will compost without ever turning it. It just takes longer.
What about the tube that's in the middle of the barrel?
This tube here runs from top to bottom of the barrel, and on the bottom it has a screen for ventilation. Down through that whole tube it has holes drilled in it. So air, once this is full, or as it, you know, the lid, does have a lid. It's gonna get screwed on the top so that we can rotate it. So it's gonna lack air. So with this tube that goes down the middle, it lets air come through and circulate. And you want them black. If you're gonna do it in a container, black is best, because the more heat you have in there, it's cool. It gets really hot. Like, you might not notice it in here, but you might. When you unscrew it, it might steam. Ooh. It gets hot. If you're doing it on the ground, which is, you can do that too, you usually want to do like a 4x4 square. You don't want anything bigger, because you just won't get it hot enough. The heat breaks down any bad pathogens. You can tell when it's done. It smells like dirt, it looks like dirt, it's dirt. See, like when I squeeze it, it's moist. It's gonna hold a clump. This is the consistency you want in your compost. If you squeeze it and water's oozing out of it, that's not good. You want more carbon. The only thing you don't want to put in is diseased plants. Like, say you have a crop in your garden and it something goes wrong with it, so you're not eating it or selling it or whatever you do, you're not feeding it to the customers here, the clients, you're going to say, okay, this one has some disease. You don't want to put it in your compost, because if you don't get it hot enough, you're just keeping that bacteria in there and it's going to come right back to your plate.
Right.
You don't really want pine straw. It's too acidic. So should we layer?
I think we should do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we should start with leaves just to get, this is going to have, I think, plenty of aeration.
Cool.
There's the barrel.
I would have never known. Look inside there. There's a little turny thing. Cool.
We're going to start and just do some layers. And the one thing when you're raking, if you're raking leaves for this, you do want to pull out major sticks and things like that, because it's just going to slow down the whole process. We're going to sprinkle it with water. So we have our hose ready to go.
Okay.
We're taking our beautiful compost.
Everyone say goodbye to the fuzz.
No.
Okay, we'll do this one.
We're gonna do two.
Oh.
If you're looking for a compost bin to put in the kitchen, stainless steel I've found is one of the best things to use if you're gonna have it a couple days, because it's easy to clean and it doesn't seem to retain a smell because you're able to clean it out real easily.
Okay, now
have to
because
cover
that
it.
was so moist, like I said before, you really want to do different layers as you're going through, but that was so moist, all the moisture that was in there. I'm gonna put a few leaves on top, take up some of that moisture, get rid of that stink right now.
All of you watching this should be very glad that you can't smell it, but don't be scared to compost
Right.
because of the smell.
But it shouldn't
Don't
be
let it
stinky.
scare you.
How often do you spin it?
You want to spin it every day. Because
Every day?
this one
Just
spins
once?
and it's so easy, once, twice, whatever you feel like.
You
Once
don't
is
need to
fine.
mix it.
Okay, now let's do the greenery. It's gonna have a
Charlie
little
wants
moisture in it too, so I didn't bother to water that last patch of leaves. This is gonna be kind of moist because of all the greenery. I'm gonna do soil.
Okay.
It's like a compost shepherd's pie.
You're not gonna go wrong. That's the thing. Just do it.
See, that comforts me because I always felt like
You're
I
not
was
gonna
gonna
go
do
wrong.
something wrong.
It's gonna tell you if
can
you're
add
wrong.
something.
It's gonna tell you it's
Right.
gonna stink or it's gonna do nothing. If it does nothing, it needs more water and more nitrogen. Now let's do
awesome.
food. And then we'll do a few leaves. Okay, we'll finish it off with this. Let's get a little water. See, I'm not putting tons of water. It is best really to sprinkle each layer as you put it in, especially if you're doing like 4-inch layers. But in this, I've never done one that spins on its own. I think it's not gonna matter as much.
So we don't even really need to have a separate bin for it. We can just bring it directly out here and just start dumping it in, and then just add every day as we need to, and then once it's filled up. But obviously, like, take like the proper steps as you do it. Like if you're putting in, like say you make like a huge dinner up here, if it's like a party or something, we have tons of food left over, we can bring it all here, dump it, walk away from it with leaves.
Or newspaper.
Or newspaper, so the nitrogen and the carbon, and then you can leave it, and then say 2 days later, and then so you start turning it. Okay, so you don't need to wait for it to fill up in order before you start spinning it. You just need to have your proportions correct.
Right.
But
What you're
it's
going to want to do
already
at some
there.
point is stop adding so it can finish. And that got pretty full. I mean, I know it's a lot of leaves, but it was up to like here. Sunshine, would you like to help give it the
I
spin?
definitely would love to
Oh my gosh,
help.
it's like the wheel of
Yeah, that's it.
Price
She's
is Right
Vanna. It's
wheel.
kind of
It's
like Vanna. And in a couple days or, you know, whatever, I'd say check it and check the consistency. It sounds kind of dry.
Yeah. Should we look at it?
Yeah, let's see what it looks like. There it is.
Little
Oh,
bit
that
stinky.
Looks good.
Not too stinky though.
Nope. Unfortunately, what'll happen to things that are pests, they'll cook.
I was gonna say, won't they die?
They'll die. If they're not
Okay.
good bacteria, they're gonna die. You're just
ready?
gonna have to check it. Looking good.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
Good composting session, ladies! Yay! You did a great job.